All right, welcome everyone to Dogging It. New episode. We broke down Team USA the other day. I'm really excited for this episode. When we're in there the other day, we had a commenter in there, and I was like, "That's Luke Riches. We got to get him on the show." Formerly with Matchroom, now Billiard Network, and also doing a lot of stuff with the Euro Tour. Luke, welcome, man. Thanks so much for joining.
Thank you very much for having me. Looking forward
Awesome.
to it.
Then I got these other two guys that are here with me all the time. Panozzo, how's it going?
Good.
Yeah, you
Fat and
ready to
happy
break
after
down Europe?
Thanksgiving.
You ready to break down Europe?
Yep. Ready to
Yeah,
bust
and
'em
Melina
up.
Mike. Oh, sorry. So Melina, what's going on, man? You ready for this?
I'm ready to go to Vegas, boys. That's what I'm ready for. I'm ready to I'm ready to catch a flight, and I'm ready to get the hell out of town. That's what I'm ready
Awesome. Well, guys, do us a favor. Let us know if you can hear us okay, if you can see us okay. We want to make sure that the production's coming through for you guys. And if you have any comments, any questions specifically for Luke, who's in the chat, he has a ton of knowledge, especially on the European side of things. So get some comments in there. We'll make sure to hit them up and make sure you guys get some exposure here. So, Mike, why don't we go ahead and jump right in?
Well, before we start off, I want to give Luke time to showcase what he's working on out there in Europe. It's the I think last Euro Tour of the year. Is that right, Luke?
It is, yeah. It's the Italian Open, which is in northern Italian city of Treviso. There's 230 odd players from 33 countries. I went through the country list and I was shocked that there was that many from Azerbaijan, countries in North Africa, pretty much everywhere. But as usual, it generally comes down to two or three players who win these events: Zielinski, Villa, and Sanchez Ruiz. But the two of them aren't here, so it gives Victor a chance to jump to the top of the ranking if he gets to the semi-finals.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. He'll finish the year as the Euro Tour's #1.
He will do, yeah.
Wow. Good for him.
Wow.
I hope he gets there.
Who's at #1 right now? Is it Ruiz?
Yeah, Ruiz has been #1 for best part of the year, really. He's pretty much #1 anywhere you look, isn't he, that fellow?
Yeah, he sure is.
Well, I think making that 30,000 out there in Las Vegas will be all right for him. He'll be.
That'll push him over the 200 grand mark for this year, I think.
What a year he's having.
Second place gets 30,000, Mike.
You think they're getting second place? You can have a friendly wager on it. That's buddy. Hey, so how can they check it out, Luke? Kazoo, right? You can, just like it was.
Yeah, go to Kazoo. It's a subscription platform, but also the EPBF put up a couple of matches, maybe 3 matches a day on Facebook Live via their EPBF page. So you can always look at them, and it's a decent production as well. So you can see how it goes on there.
Yeah.
I think fans from the States caught a glimpse of it with Kazoo's partnership with the Pro Billiard Series, just as far as the quality of it. And I've been a fan and have subscribed to Kazoo for a number of years. And it's top shelf, man. The best streaming of pool anywhere in the world.
Yeah, I mean they stream every table as well. So when you're on the platform, there's I think there's only 20 tables this time out. So the event's 4 days instead of 3, but every table is available to watch throughout.
That's great.
Yeah.
So who are some of the favorites out there? You mentioned Victor. I'm assuming Kachi's there.
Kachi's there. I mean, it's basically obviously Shaw doesn't play on it, nor does Albin anymore. But so the 3 Moscone players aren't here, obviously. So it's everyone else but those 3.
Mario Alex Kazakis.
Yeah, Mario's here. Alex is here. Alex just won. Kachi, obviously Victor's. I think he always says he gets. I mean, all these guys have spent a month and a half in the States traveling, playing tournament after tournament, and then they're all flying back, basically getting home, repacking their suitcase, and coming to Treviso. So some of them may be a little tired. I don't know, but we'll just see.
Yep.
Hey, Luke, what role do you think the Euro Tour is playing in what we're seeing each year with the Mosconi Cup and how Europe just tends to be such an overwhelming favorite on paper? Do you think Euro Tour is contributing to that?
Yeah, I mean it's kind of a wider picture. I mean, you saw it in the World Juniors. There was 3 events, and I think 17 of the 24 quarterfinalists were European players, and there's just a system throughout Europe in all these countries with junior pool, and it takes them up to the next level, and it's something that works, and it basically produces all these players kind of on a production line, and it's something that's not really replicated in the United States, which is a shame, because it would, you know, in the long term it will get results. But yeah, there's basically a production line from junior pool in your own country, and then you move up and get into European competition, and it produces all these guys. I mean, I heard you were talking about, you know, players that will be dominant players over the next 5 years, but there's probably half a dozen kids now who are aged between sort of 17 and 19, who in 5 years' time or so, they'll be kind of knocking on that door and being top tournament players on the pro circuit.
Absolutely.
Do any of them have personalities, or are they like the quiet guys who are sitting in the corner?
Any future Earl Stricklands, European Earl Stricklands?
Yeah.
I really don't think so. It's kind of that's kind of not you know, their upbringing and their education in the game teaches them kind of a lot of aspects of it, not just playing, but how you conduct yourself and, you know, all those sorts of things. But yeah, in terms of characters, I mean, you never know with kids, do you? I mean, how they're going to develop as people as they get older. I mean, they're certainly going to develop as players, but I guess they don't really care. But yeah, obviously the game needs characters, doesn't it, to drive it?
Yeah.
I was going to say, you worked with Matchroom, Luke. So, I mean, you know the importance of having these stars, and you know, you have them by having not just a great game, but personalities matched with it. I mean, I think I mean, look at Jason.
Yeah, I mean, Jason's. I mean, the Mosconi Cup is a case in point. I mean, he always plays well at that event, doesn't he? He always brings out the best in him, and also he performs not just on the table. He just gets carried away with the atmosphere, and you know, he brings something to the event that not that many do. Plus, he plays really well.
Yeah, same with Josh. I mean, you know, Josh.
Yeah, he's another one, Josh. I mean, he's you know, he's. I wouldn't say he's not an excitable character, but you know, when there's a big crowd and the atmosphere's there, it does affect him in I'd say a positive way.
Yeah. Well, before we jump into all these guys and break them all down, we're going to start from the top, and we're going to start with a guy who was the world champion last year, a guy who is seemingly hasn't missed a beat. We're going to start with Albin Ouschan, boys. Joey, you want to start us off?
Yeah, I mean, Albin, I don't think it's a secret over the last several years. I've been talking about how he's really my favorite player. When you look at him and what he brings to the table, I love his laid back mindset. You know, when he's out there, we did see some frustration last year when it was Champions League pool, I think. Now it's Premier League pool. But Albin is just a professional. He just goes out there and he gets it done. When he was in Vegas for the Predator events, I remember being close to his table and watching him. And, you know, you just see the way he goes about business. And it's something to marvel at. You know, there's no situation too big for him. Just keeps his cool for the most part, and stays within himself. And he grinds it out and he gets the job done. So I don't expect any different from him this week or next week, rather, in Vegas. I think he's just going to be that steady, calming influence for a team that's full of the Jasons and the Joshes that are going to be rah-rahing. I think Albin's just going to be there, and he's going to be his normal professional self.
What say you, Luke?
Yeah, I mean, I always think with Albin, if there was one person in the audience or 2,000 people in the audience, it wouldn't really make any difference. You wouldn't see anything in him that would indicate that. And also, I think if your life was on the line and you wanted one guy to run a rack of balls to save your life, I'd always pick Albin Ouschan, just because he's so calm and he performs as well. I mean, you know, he probably hasn't had the best year this year, but that's only comparing it to, you know, years when he's won the World Championship and stuff like that. So he's always going to be somebody in a Mosconi Cup event that's going to be a real asset to your team. Just his calmness. He's not excitable. You know, and I think there's going to be a lot of people there in Las Vegas, the most they've ever had at a Mosconi Cup, and I'm sure the people will be trying to bring it for the United States, the crowd. But he's a guy that's unflappable in that situation, I believe.
What do you say, Mike?
Yeah, I mean, not much to add. I mean, he's got the he's the yin to Jason's yang. I mean, he's got the perfect complementary temperament
Oh, I need that T-shirt.
for a team. You know, if you're trying to build a team and you need that fiery guy and you need that leader and you need another guy who's just like, you know, just unflappable, Albin's the guy. And you know, I think Albin, to me, his biggest value is in doubles. I don't care who he's playing with in doubles, he calms them down, he plays the right shot, leaves them the right shot, can bail them out if they get a little bit out of line for him, and never, you know, shrugs his shoulder, rolls his eyes, you know, takes a deep breath, whatever. He's perfect in doubles. And if you look at his record over the years, it proves that. I mean, his doubles record is, you know, like 11-5 or something like that. His singles record is really only like 4-3 in singles matches. I mean, he's still a tough out anytime he plays, but he's just such a good influence in doubles that, to me, that's where his main strength is, because of that calming attitude that he has.
That's such a good point, Panozzo. When you look at anytime you see doubles pull and you have the gestures and you have the frustration, you know, it's something that can really bring down your partner, and you don't get that out of Albin. I think that's a great take.
What do you mean? The guy's gone on tilt like for the last 2 years, banging his cue on the ground and rolling his eyes and
Tilt.
you know,
His
face,
tilt,
in his
tilt
hand.
is like
He's always had that, but that's usually in you know, singles events,
In singles,
where he's
yeah.
mad at himself. He's never going to do anything in Mosconi Cup to show the team that he's off the rails at all, right? So
Agreed.
I don't think you ever have to worry about him. He may go into the locker room or, you know, the practice room and smack his cue against the wall, but I don't think you're going to ever see it in the arena.
Right.
Albin's a champion through and through. You know, Luke mentioned maybe not as successful a year as he's had in years past, but it's only because he had such a monster year a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
You know, we forget he won the European Open this year. I think he beat, who was it, Ruiz in the final after Ruiz makes his monster tear through the one-loss side after losing his first round match. Albin's made for big spots.
Yeah.
Wait, I think it was the European Open, wasn't it, Mike?
Well, didn't he beat Shane in the final?
Was it Shane?
He beat Shane in one final because he's played 2 finals against Shane this year.
Maybe you're right then. Yeah.
Won one and lost one.
I think you're right, Mike. But Albin's just made for big moments, you know, whether it's World Cup of Pool, individual, like the CLP or POP, like Joey mentioned, every major that's on earth, including, you know, when Matchroom's taking them over. He's a leader, but he doesn't have to talk about being a leader. He's dependable out there. You know, no matter what guys out there, no matter what partner or what players out there, they know they can depend on Albin in big spots. And the bigger the moment, he seems to just deliver. I mean, that's how he's got all that hardware, right? Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, no, this is, you know, he does look for these big events, which is, you know, I think, look, I don't think he's been a big winner on the Euro Tour in a while. I don't, you know, and he's talked before about the Euro Tour just doesn't, those events just don't get him excited. He looks at it a lot of times, he said, as a chore more than anything else. But you get into these big matchroom arenas or big world championships, and he's got a switch that, you know, all of a sudden his focus is just more dialed in.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose the only downside is that I always feel with players, kind of any player, that you have to try and play competitive pool all the time.
Yeah, right. He does that.
You know, once you start playing once a month in events, it's probably going to come back and bite you. But we shall see.
I don't think it's bitten them yet, but I agree with you. I like the idea of staying in competition, especially for a lot of guys. But Albin is one of the few pool players that like really treats it more like a sport than anything else. You know, with his training and his workout routine, health and dieting, things like that. He seems to be a real student of the game, and I'm with you. But it just seems whatever it's doing for that guy, it works. Because I mean, here he is again, and I think him being a leader is a big reason why he made this team. You know, what was it? He made it off of points, though, right? He was third on points.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. Well, I think either way, he would have been a lock to make it in from a captain's perspective as well. He's that valuable, I feel like, and I don't think there's any player, whether it's, you know, singles or double, or especially on the double side, where he wouldn't be a value add to them. You know, whether it's Josh or Jason. we all expect Ruiz and David to be playing together, but even if it's Albin and David playing together, I think they'd be a really tough duo. So, who do you guys like for having Albin match up in the doubles?
I think it was stated before, and I kind of agree with it. Albin and Jason, I think, are a really good team. Because you have it's almost like fire and ice. You have Jason, who's very emotional and going to be into the crowd and getting people fired up, and then you have Albin, with the more calm demeanor. I think they'd make a really good team in this. So that's who I'd go with.
I mean, I personally, in the doubles, I think that at this level, with the high skill factor and experience factor, you can put anyone with anyone. It almost doesn't matter. I think players that they'll always find a way of playing together because they're at such a refined level of play that you can put anyone in with anyone for the doubles. I'm sure that's not how Alex Laley sees it, but I think ultimately that's how it will work out with these teams or this team.
I mean, it's a good question mark to have, right? Your one unknown is the guy who's had the best year out of all 10 players in Ruiz. The rest of these other guys on Team Europe, what you can expect from them on that stage.
Well, so but you can only play, you can only put Ruiz and David together once, right?
Yeah.
So, who is your best fit for Francisco in the doubles match he plays without David? And I would think, to me, Albin would be a good fit for him as well.
Well, actually, Mike, I think there's a fan's choice, isn't there, for a double?
Yeah, there is. But if
there's no
Albin,
disqualification if they've played before.
Correct. But I don't see Albin and anybody being the fans' choice for a doubles match.
No.
I don't see Francisco and David being the fans' choice for the doubles. So I don't think they would be able to play together more than once.
It's going to be Josh and Jason.
It's going to be Josh and Jason.
To be honest, it might well be based on the results in the previous play. Yeah. If the doubles pairings won, what is it? Races to 5, isn't it? So if the doubles pairings won 5-0, whoever they may be, that may well be the fans' pick.
Yeah, I'm not sure when the fans' pick for doubles will be. They've already started it for the singles, and I don't know when they cut it off. But the other side of it is, like I said, I don't think it's likely to be Francisco and David. But I don't, we don't know for sure it'll be Josh and Jason, because if one of them gets picked for the fans' choice in singles, then they can't play the doubles.
Right.
They can't be
that's
in
a
the
good point.
In doubles.
Yeah,
and we all expect Jason to be there on singles, don't we?
Either him or Filler, one or the other. So you're not going to get Jason and Filler for the doubles.
Yeah, I mean, Shaw's track record is generally he's always the man picked for that fans' choice, isn't he?
Yeah.
Well, let's jump on into Ruiz. He's the one rookie for the blue and the yellow. What can't you say about this guy? He's winning different disciplines. He's winning everything on earth. He seems, even when he gets into the one loss side, like I mentioned in that one major, he battles through, ends up in the final. What a year. I mean, you really just can't say enough as far as all his accomplishments.
No,
yeah,
I mean, his performances this year have been sort of bordering on the ridiculous. Just the fact that he's entered so many events in such high quality fields and pretty much won everything.
Right.
And that's almost unheard of. And I mean, there is the rookie factor in the Mosconi Cup, which is often talked about. But, previously, I know the atmosphere wasn't probably quite as intimidating as it will be this time. But, rookies have won the MVP before. Dennis Hatch did. Tony Drago did. But so it's not always necessarily the case where a rookie's sort of, like a rabbit in the headlights.
Well, between you two boys, y'all been through like 30 plus Mosconi Cups. So how important is how big of a factor is that rookie pressure, so to speak?
Well, I mean, I think that whatever the other players say, however they explain it to a player who's not played any before, I don't think they never really know what it's going to be like until they walk out into the arena, no matter who they are. But I'm sure he's a fairly unflappable guy. He's quite adaptable, so I don't see any issues with that.
I think his pace of play helps him because he's not going to get sharked by the shot clock because he's already a pretty, pretty fast player. But you never know what's going to. A lot of it depends on how he starts off. If they can rattle him a little bit the first time he gets out there, it's hard to brush that off, I think, for a young guy. But I don't see that happening. I mean, he's certainly not. He's certainly used to playing in the TV arena on the TV tables in a matchroom event, as he's proven this year. So I don't think that part's going to get to him.
No.
He knows how the cloth is going to play, how the tables are going to play in that type of atmosphere. He's just going to have to get used to 2,800 people screaming in his ear. We'll find out. I think we'll find out pretty quick how he's going to handle it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's an argument to be made for who's the best player on the planet with Josh and Fedor, but there's not really an argument to be made on who's the hottest player on the planet, and it's this guy. Right before the U.S. Open, we had a fantasy draft, and we started picking players, and he was my number one pick. Not bragging, but I'm just saying he's playing great.
Yeah. How did that work out for you, by the way?
Well, I did lose to Molina Mike, but he's playing great. He's fun to watch. That's the thing I love. There's some players that, they're great players, but then watching them, it's they take too much time. They don't have the right pace, but he's just got a great pace. He's fun to watch, and I'm really excited to see him play. But I think one key to this is how he starts. If being a rookie in the event, if he comes out and he starts slow, if in the team match he, loses a rack that he should have won, he misses a ball he shouldn't have missed, you never know how that's going to be playing with his psyche as this event goes on, right? So I really think that getting off to a fast start is important for him, because we all know how this game works, right? There's days where even the hottest players out there, they're in dead punch and they're feeling great, and then something bad happens and they can kind of get in their head a little bit. So I'm curious to see how he's going to start, but if he is able to start well, I think we're going to see the same type of form that we've seen out of him all year long, which is almost miraculous how well he's played.
I feel like there's a number of different things that go well for Francisco. One of them, like what Mike said, is just how many times he's been on a Matchroom TV arena over the last year and even the last few years. He knows the shot clock well. He knows how the clock's going to play, how the table's going to play. He's played on them early on in events and late in events. The guy just doesn't seem to rattle. I love a lot of his game. He seems to have momentum as the event goes on as well. Now he's obviously going to have limited opportunities, but boy, he's just through and through. He can deliver, and the main thing that I love about him is, for my money, I think he breaks the balls the best in this format than anybody on earth. He's so consistent with that break, making that cue ball swing left to right, and just having a shot. A lot of those guys, either they lose it or ends up going high. Francisco just plays it so well. And I think that's boded well for him over the last few months, especially. The crowd's a big factor, but he's been on big stages, and I know those fans, like in majors, they're more like respectful pool fans who are just appreciating the sport versus the Mosconi Cup kind of rattling the other guy atmosphere. But he's one of the good guys. I don't see him breaking here, man. He's too tough. He really is.
And what a boost for the rest of the team if he comes out blazing hot. I mean, then the rest seems like, man, even our rookie, you don't have to worry about him. You don't have to carry him. You don't have to wet nurse him, whatever. If they know right out of the gate, they can just freewheel because he's pounding the ball in. That's got to help the whole crew.
I mean, the only other factor in the Mosconi Cup, which might affect him, is that obviously throughout the event, the players are in a sort of really heightened state because of the event and the atmosphere. And there's an awful lot of standing around. I mean, you kind of, you play one race to 5 match in a 4-hour session. It's just not a lot of pool. You've got to be ready for that when it comes your way.
That's a really good point. You think about it they always talk about, even in like sporting events, like football events, teams that have never been to the Super Bowl before, how they're so wound up, and then they go in at halftime, and a Super Bowl halftime's like an hour long. Yeah. And they just, they don't come out with the same intensity. They get that little drag, whatever. So it's a good point, because you don't get that many opportunities to play. There might be a whole day goes by where you play maybe a doubles match and that's it for the day. So that does take some getting used to. I mean, he's certainly got enough guys. He's got 4 other guys that can help him through that because they've all been through it. So I think it benefits him that he's the only rookie. But that's a really good point.
Yeah, that is a good point, and especially for someone who, at least from the outside looking in, appears to be such a rhythm player. You know, if there's a break in that, right? If there's a day where he only plays one match, or, he has hours where he's not at the table, he could get up there and take a little while to get back in rhythm. And, anything that takes a while in a race to 5 is not good. It's not good to take a while to get in rhythm, because that match is going to be over before you know it. So a question for the group. So everybody keeps saying David and Francisco. Is it just a foregone conclusion that they are going to be a doubles team? Does that have to be the case?
Well, I can't imagine that Alex Lady would not put them together as one of his choices as a doubles pair, because they've had success. They won the World Cup of Pool this year, which is a full-on Scotch doubles event. I couldn't think of any possible reason why he wouldn't pair them up.
I think he's just made for this event. If you were to bring in like someone like, let's say, a Kachi, right, who's had questions about his pace of play, or an Alex, or maybe if his nerves are going to hold up, Francisco just seems to be the perfect player made for this event, whether it's his rhythm, his break. I mean, you name it, being on big stages, how he handles tough spots. He does so many things well, aside from just breaking and running. I think I don't want to say surprised a lot of people because he's probably the best player on earth, but I think he's going to live up to the pick that he's at right now and being the world number 1.
So let me ask you from a strategic standpoint. If you're looking at, they're the World Cup of Pool champions, they know each other like brothers. When do you put them out there? You're going to put them out there. Do you do it early in the event? Do you do it in the latter part of the double stages? Where do you think you're going to get, if you're Alex Lely, where do you put him?
I mean, I would think Alex would look upon those two as a doubles pairing, as not necessarily a banker, but an absolutely great chance of winning a point. And I would suspect you put them out early.
That's what I think too.
Early and often. Get them out there early and then get him into a singles match early. You know what I mean? Like, that's what get him playing, get him hitting balls, get his confidence up as early as possible, I would say.
So you could see getting him into a doubles match and having him follow up with singles right after the doubles.
Yep.
Get his feet wet, right? That's the mentality I would have. You know he can play well. Get him used to that environment right away. What better spot to put him in?
The danger in that is if he comes out shaky, and everybody comes out of the gate.
But if you have David next to you, Mike, if you got your brother right next to you, who can calm you down and who can be your anchor, and who you can depend on more importantly, I love getting him out early, and that's. Yeah. Those points are going to be. I mean, all the points are massive, but getting your rookie acclimated and getting those nerves down, I think is pretty important.
Yeah.
All right, let's transition over to his countryman, the guy who I don't think David makes it on the team if it wasn't for Francisco. So we always talk about his doubles value. What do you expect from Alcaide, guys?
I mean, David's first played in the event in 2006, which is a damn long time ago, isn't it, really? But, and he's played, he's never been a regular, but he's played in it enough times. And he seems to me a reliable type of player in this format now.
Yeah.
He's not going to buckle. I don't think. I mean, he may not win the match, and matches often go in certain ways, but it certainly won't be anything to do with him feeling it too much.
Yeah, I mean, David's a world-class player. Make no mistake about it. It just so happens to be that he has the most pressure on him in the entire event, because the whole world was looking at that pick and saying, should that have been Fedor Gorst? And I think most of the world was saying yes. And the fact that it wasn't, there's a ton of pressure now on David. And if he comes out and falters, I think that pressure starts mounting even greater. The first game that he loses in the team match, or the first match that he loses, everybody's going to be online talking about, see, should have went with Fedor. Mm-hmm. So I think there's a ton of pressure on David, but I also think he's equipped to handle it. He just gets the job done. He's a professional. He's a world-class player, and we'll see how it shakes out for him.
Yeah, I mean, there's also a counter argument that the fact that he got picked over Gorst, and there seems to be obviously a lot of popular feeling about Gorst coming in, approaching the event. He may not see it like that. He may think I'm here on merit, and I'm going to do what I do. And the fact that the Americans might, if he misses a ball, the Americans might start chanting Gorst. But he's
Pretty much guaranteed.
We can bet
idea,
whether
like-
that's going to happen. We can make a friendly wager whether that'll happen.
That'll last for about 2 matches, that Gorst chant, I reckon. But,
it'll last as long as he misses.
Yeah, I think a guy like David will understand that he's there for his merits and abilities, and his head will feel it that way accordingly.
He's taken advantage of his opportunities, because there were several years where he was the guy who everybody was saying, how did he not make the team? He was the guy who got left off when he had good results, and he's really played well. I think, I remember 16 years ago was when he first played in his first Mosconi Cup, and that's the only singles match he's lost, and that was, Luke, to who?
Blimey, he lost to Corey Jewell.
He lost to Corey Dole in the last match to make the tie.
Not
to make the tie.
Corey doesn't win many Mosconi Cup matches.
Well, that was Europe had an 11-10 lead. It was the last match of the tournament because they weren't going to have a tiebreaker that year, and it was Corey against David, and Corey beat him pretty handily. But since then, he hasn't lost a singles match. He's really good in doubles. He's just kind of, you look at these teams and you don't think of him that much. You look like, okay, he's going to be on one of tomorrow's matches. We got a chance to win a point here. Well, he just doesn't lose much.
No,
he stays pretty even keel in those arenas. He's usually not drawing, Shane or Sky or someone like that, which has to be a benefit to him. But he takes advantage of his opportunities.
Lest we forget, he barely got away with one against Jeremy last year.
100%. But it's a win in his column.
Well, that's true. I think it's a matter of how you handle as the pressure gets ratcheted up, and I think it's going to be even more this year.
No doubt.
All eyes are going to be on David. He's going to be under the biggest microscope out of everyone. Whether or not it's fair or not makes no difference, because those fans are going to let him know every time who they think ought to be out there. If he rattles the ball or he shakes any bit like he did against Jeremy, and he did against Jeremy, everyone's going to let him know. And I think that mental warfare is going to be tested out there. But David's been through a lot. He's a champion in his own right. I think he brings a lot of value to this team on a number of different levels. He's played on matchroom stages throughout the years and has had all these successes. But it's Vegas, man, and there's been a lot of controversy, and he's not used to being like that, I don't think. He's a guy everybody roots for, and even a guy like Federer, when I'm talking to him after the picks announced, even he said it. It's not fair what David's having to go through, because he's not a jerk. He's not bringing any of this upon himself. But there's going to be a lot of questions, I feel like.
Look, if he plays great in this event, it's going to be an amazing kind of testament to his legacy, because Federer being picked over Federer, and Federer is like the U.S.'s adopted son, and it's in the United States. There's so many people in this country that love Federer Gorst because of the fact that he's traveled all throughout this country. He's played bar table events. He's played big table events. He's met all these people. People love Federer in the United States, and they are going to be all over him in Vegas. I guarantee it. And we'll see how he handles the pressure.
I think, when I think about who I want David going up against, I'd want it to be a guy maybe like with lower, expectations, maybe not the Shanes of Team USA. Try to get him comfortable, get some confidence in him. Obviously they're not going to know who the other guy's going to put in there, but I would love to see that kind of matchup for a guy like David if I'm rooting for Team Europe, which, by the way, I bet on Europe. So everyone who thinks I'm just this homer online. I'm not. I always
You
fire
always
on.
bet the favorites. We know this.
Yeah.
I got it
No
in real good.
surprise.
Yeah, it worked out real well as I'm laying 3-1 back to back years in 17 and 18. Buddy, trust me, Christmas was not ruined. Let me tell you. No, but David's just a monster, and it's gonna be. I'm with you though, Joey. I think if he comes out of this and plays phenomenal, what a story that would be.
Yeah.
You know, what a story that would be because he's had to deal with a lot of bullshit online that, like I said, whether it's fair or not, and he's got a real big opportunity to really show his, like the Europeans say, his bottle. You know, so
Yeah.
all right, boys, let's move on. We got what are we going to next? We already talked about Albin. We talked about Francisco and David. Well, let's talk
One of
about
the
Now we got
lefties.
Josh and Jason left.
One of the lefties.
yeah. Let's start with the killer.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Mike.
Well, I mean, it's kind of funny that, when you talk about conversation about the Mosconi Cup and Team Europe over the last couple of months, he's gotten away with like almost no one talking about him. It's all been about Jason. It's all been about David. It's all been about FSR. He's had like a free ride through the last couple of months rolling into this tournament. And that's not a guy you want to have coming in loosey-goosey, slamming balls around. I'd like to see, as a U.S. fan, like to see a little pressure put on him a little bit and see if you can get him to wobble a little bit. But he's, you know what you're going to get out of him, which is the black hat and balls flying in at an amazing pace. He's his own guy. He's this guy that's just over on the side of the team. He's got his own rhythm, his own, temperament. You just kind of turn him loose when it's time to play, and he's going to go out there and get the job done. Him playing with Jason in doubles is almost a guarantee at some point in the event. They're going to look for spots to have him against Shane if they can. If they can kind of figure out where Shane's going to go, they're going to try to put Josh in there because they'd rather have Josh playing Shane than playing Sky. I guarantee that.
100% right.
But he's Josh. He's arguably the best player in the world when he's rolling, and he's had a lot of fun at the Mosconi Cup, save for that one match against Sky. You got to like everything about him.
I agree with you, Mike. I think the other thing about Joshua is that I think he really enjoys being the pantomime villain for the USA fans. That really motivates him, to get on their nerves basically, and he does that quite well. People get outraged by some of his antics, but he does them so that those people are outraged. It's kind of quite a simple equation. He's like when Joshua's playing, he's unstoppable, isn't he? Really,
he plays that role very well, but he's also a really good guy outside of the Mosconi Cup, and a lot of fans I've been out at events where fans I've come up after they've met him. They're like, "Man, I hated that guy," and then I met him. He's such a good dude, and I'm like, "That's a Mosconi Cup, man. What do you expect?" What can't Josh do, right? If there's anybody out of all 10 players that I want coming back from behind, it's this guy. If there's anyone I want taking the head off of the best player on the other team, it's this guy. If there's anyone I think who's the best player out of all 10 players made for this event, it's that guy. Josh is just a phenomenal talent. If there's someone on Team USA who I'd want to go against them, it would not be Shane by a mile, because I think he's got Shane's number in here. Obviously in a race to 5 playing 9 ball, it's gambling, but you can't argue with results. And Josh has had results against Shane. Now, if there's someone I don't want going against Josh besides Sky, it's probably Tyler, as crazy as that sounds, because I think Tyler can go in there free. He's had marginal success playing against them in big spots this year. And I think that would be a big momentum booster for the Americans. But aside from that, I think Josh can take out anyone at any time, but they expect points out of him, and he's going to be. But it's like what Mike said. He's kind of been an afterthought this year, so he's just been able to really just focus on his game. And if he's going in there with nobody talking about him, you're going to be talking about him after that match is over with. I guarantee you, he's that dynamic.
So I'm who you talked about, Molina, that, watching him kind of break on the scene at Moscone years ago and just seeing how confident, some would say cocky he was. I did not like the guy until we interviewed him, and I was like, wow, what a great guy he is. But honestly, when I'm watching him play and I'm rooting against him because he's playing an American or he's playing somebody that I'm a fan of, the only thing that I can hope is that he gets a little loose, like Panozzo said, loosey goosey. If he gets a little loosey goosey with his cue ball because he's just that talented, that he loses focus a little bit, right? And that's where we see him stumble sometimes, is that he's just so good. He can get himself out of so many situations that sometimes it appears that maybe he gets a little bored, or, he's just flying around a table doing stuff, that if he just gets a little bit loosey goosey, then maybe he makes a mistake. That's what you got to hope for with this guy, because he's not going to make many of them. And even when he does make a mistake, he bails himself out. So what are you going to say? Guys,
but
literally
besides,
one of the best players on the planet.
Besides Sky, who do you know for sure is going to make him pay for it? Because if let's say someone makes that mistake, oh, come on, Mike.
No, I think I'd be really interested to see the dynamic in a Josh Earl match. I'd be really interested to see it.
That's a match I'd like to see as well.
Yeah, actually. it just because Jason, that Jason's, he wants that, head to head with Earl. He wants that biting at each other, things like that. Josh doesn't know Earl. Josh hasn't been through that. I have no idea how it's going to turn out. I'm just really interested.
But he's an historian of the game. He knows who Earl is, and I think he'd be looking.
He knows who Earl is, but he's not used to playing him.
He would love the chance to play him though in the Mosconi Cup.
I would hope so, and I just that's the one head-to-head singles match that I'm really curious to watch, to see how it plays out, because it can go a bunch of different ways to me.
Yeah, I think what you said, Molina, actually supports that point that Panozzo's making. He does know who Earl is, because I'm sure when he was coming up, Earl was a legendary, right? But he hasn't had those battles at Turning Stone with Earl like Jason's had, and arguing about Iraq and all this stuff. So
he hasn't lived with Earl like Jason has.
Thank God. No, what I was getting at is, like, let's say Josh makes a mistake, right? Let's say Josh makes a mistake. Who do you know on that other team is just gonna punish you? Like, you just know they're gonna make you pay for it. Because I think besides Sky, let's say
you're talking about 9-ball
against Josh, he's gonna punish you. Josh
is about 9-ball. You can make a mistake on the 7-ball, and anybody can make 2 balls.
He's a killer, man. Like, he will make you pay. I know that for a fact. I've seen matches where he's down big, and the one little mistake, it completely shifts. I can name match after match. He's that kind of player. I don't know anyone on Team USA where if you give them a small window, they're going to go and kick the door down like Josh would if it was reversed. That's all I was saying.
Yeah, that's a point. I got it.
So who else you guys like with him in the doubles besides Jason?
I mean, I think what Luke said earlier kind of holds true here with anybody on Team Europe. And I think Luke said that kind of thinking about Team Europe, because with the US, you have a little more decision making, because you have kind of a diversity in skill levels. But on Europe, everybody's such a top world-class player, it really doesn't matter too much, I think. I don't really have a preference for Josh matching up with somebody in doubles.
No, I stand by my earlier point that you can put any of these guys with any of the other ones.
From a talent level, for sure. From a communication level, is he likely to feel more comfortable and communicative with someone? He's going to be that way with Jason. I would think, what's he like playing doubles with Francisco? I don't know. I mean, it's, they're not best buddies, and it's not rocket science to play doubles, but there does seem to be that little chemistry communication thing that does kind of separate some doubles teams from others. And I'm just not really sure, because Josh is such a by himself kind of guy. I'm not sure if there's probably not a bad fit for him, but I don't know if there's one that's better than another.
I like him with Francisco. I think they both hit the ball very similarly. I think they both have a similar rhythm. They don't waste any time. Francisco's had that I'm going to put the ball on the hole kind of way of playing pool, like with the confidence that Josh had a couple of years ago, the exact same way. I think you can depend on Josh no matter what other guys out there, and I would love for Francisco to be out there with them just to calm him down, because the guy behind you is definitely going to deliver. You know, if you make a mistake, the guy behind you can definitely bail you out. I think that'd be a great matchup. But I'm kind of with you. I don't think there's any uh, any bad spot for him. You know, the European team's going to need Josh to deliver, but I like that nobody's talking about him if I'm betting on Team Europe.
You are betting on Team Europe, for the record.
For the record, yeah, definitely, without a doubt. All right, boys, let's finish off with Mr. Right Now, Mr. Jason Shaw, Mr. Irrelevant.
There's a guy peaking at the right time.
That photograph that you've used there absolutely sums up Jason Shaw on the Mosconi Cup to me.
Yeah.
You know, he's a guy that I mean, he generally plays well in it. He's MVP'd a couple of times in recent years, hasn't he? But yeah, he's somebody that probably thrives on that atmosphere as much or more than any other player in the event. And has he had a fantastic season, Jason? I don't know, but I don't doubt that he's going to come to that event and potentially be the MVP yet again.
Yeah. I think the best thing that ever happened to Jason in Moscone was 2018. Because he is that leader, that fiery guy, loves the crowd, build up, but he overamped in 2018. He was too jacked up, he was too geared up, and he blew a couple of matches, that he shouldn't have lost. And it was, to me, it was because he was just wired too tight. And I think he learned from that experience to be able to channel that energy and that, all that stuff a little bit better. And then you saw it in 20 and 21, he just played like an absolute monster.
Yeah, with Jason, every year, foregone conclusion, he's on the team. He's going to be one of the leaders, if not the leader of the team. And I remember this year tracking his progress and thinking, this might be the year for US, right? Because he wasn't playing exceptionally well. And then here we have the last couple months and he's playing with this insane. And so it's one of those kind of heartbreaking thing for US fans. Like, man, we thought this might be the year where Jason comes in kind of on, just he wasn't playing terrible, but he just wasn't doing a whole lot. And then all of a sudden he snaps off the international. He beats Shane in a big match. So it's like, wow, Jason's in form now, which is absolutely horrible timing for the United States for him to come into this matchup playing his best pool, but I think it's here. I think he's playing his best pool. What I'm curious about, will there be any last minute distractions? And I don't mean for Jason, I mean that Jason brings on for the United States. If you remember a couple years back, it was the whole Shane Snake thing got brought up in the press conferences. There was a lot of, mystery around it. Like, what's he talking about? And people were speculating online. And I think that did get under Shane's skin a little bit going into that event. Will we see any press conference surprises out of Jason? Will he pick a fight with somebody online? I said it before. He's the Conor McGregor of
take it to the bank, son.
What's coming?
He's going to go after Earl at the press conference. That's
you
what's
can
coming.
Guarantee
that's not even a question. He's been like practicing his speech for the last 3 weeks. I guarantee you that.
At a minimum, I'm taking the over probably. Now the guy's just box office, like Luke said. That's Jason Shaw in the Mosconi Cup right there. It's what he does. He delivers in big spots. It doesn't matter who the name is. Coming off that big win against Shane, playing this format, I think serves Jason well mentally. He's got all the confidence in the world, but it's not from like I'm just cocky and I can play great pool. It's that I'm delivering now. Any doubts you had about my game over the last few months, look at him now. He's playing the best pool right now. And coming off that win at the International is just massive. It just solidifies what he has been believing over the last 12 plus months. He's on this team for a number of different reasons. He handles pressure well. The crowd needling him. He wants to punch him right back with his game and then do what he's doing there in that picture. And really piss some American fans off. And I think he's really good at that. Mentally, I think he definitely knows he can get in Earl's head. Maybe he knows he can get in Shane's head a little bit, and those are the two wild cards for Team USA, which you don't know what you're going to, expect to a certain degree. You don't know if Shane's going to be the Captain America we expect him to be or the guy who's come up flat over the last, 10 plus years. Um, I think he's in a real good spot to win the MVP. I don't care who his double partner is either. I don't. Whether it's Josh, who we all expect to be at least for one of them, or even a guy like, let's say David, opposite ends of the spectrum as far as personalities. But I don't care, man. The guy can bring up anyone, any one of those players, or even an Albin. Hell, that would be a strong partnership right there.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't really have anything to add to that.
So what's going to be the scoreline, boys?
11-5 US. Just based on what we discussed today, I can't see it any other way.
Yeah, right.
I think the US will do well to run them close, to be honest with you. I mean,
what's close, Luke?
8.
Like getting to 8?
11-5, 11-6, I think it might end up as.
Wow. Yeah.
I mean, I could be completely wrong, and I probably will be, but that's just my initial feeling looking at it.
Luke, being around so many Mosconi Cups, and you too, Panozzo, what if you take the fans, the home field advantage? What's that worth in Mosconi points? Is that a +1, +2? What do you feel?
I don't think it's. I mean, it certainly helps the team, but I don't think it brings them points in that respect. I mean, and also, if you have a big crowd that's making a big noise against you, and you're 3-0 up after 3 matches, that crowd just disappears. That's how it works. I mean, crowds. It's the same in any sport. When you get a big home crowd, like in a football soccer match, as you call it, you've got 50,000 people screaming against you, and after 20 minutes, you're 2-0 up. They don't make any noise anymore.
They're done. The life sucked out of them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I don't know if you can count on team points from it, but I think if you're the underdog, a home crowd, that you get up a little bit and they get really riding with you, it can really elevate. I think it can really elevate their game, really get them focused in, really get them dialed in. Conversely, I've always thought that in Europe, when there's like 50 US fans and 2,750 European fans, the pressure's a lot on the European players because they're expected to just roll over these guys.
Yeah.
And I thought that was the case in 18. Where their expectations were so high, they couldn't believe they weren't winning. And I think that just lumped more pressure on the European players. Whereas 19, I think the crowd, which was the most decidedly US ever, helped carry those guys through. It made Johan's job easier getting these guys focused in and dialed into one ball at a time, one match at a time, that type of atmosphere. So I think the crowd can make a big impact.
The U.S. is going to start strong. They're going to play well out of the gate. They are. They're going to play well out of the gate. And as any pool player can relate, Europe's going to be looking around and they're going to say, don't these guys know they're supposed to lose? And the pressure's going to mount. The pressure's going to build. And the United States is going to win this one in a close one, 11-9. In fact, the United States today is going to win 2-1 on the football pitch, as you'd like to call it, Luke. And mark my words. By the way, I'm the worst. Caveat: I'm the worst sports bettor in history. That's what's going to happen.
Well, Team USA feels better already.
Yeah. You just dogged them and buried them before they even broke the first rack. It's going to be a tall order, but I agree with you. If you're the Americans, you got to jump out early. You got to keep those fans involved. Like in football, if you're in American football, home field advantage is probably worth like 3 points, which is pretty massive, especially as the season wears on. Out there in Vegas, where I think a lot of American fans have been hungry for a Mosconi Cup for a number of different years, I think people are pumped up. They're really wound up. They're ready to give it to the Europeans as much as they can. I think they got a lot of ammunition this year. If they get any kind of hold, then you're really going to see what these guys are made of. The problem is you probably got 4.5 killers out there on Team Europe that can just deliver at any point against any big name on the other side. So I love a good underdog story, but it's going to be really, really tough. And I also feel like there's more pressure on the Americans because they are playing back at home as well. So
Do you think
one
that
week
puts pressure on them?
on the
Or do you
Americans.
think that, yeah, or do you think that that's going to just be something that they're going to try to, channel to their benefit?
Well, here's the deal. Like I can count on the Europeans being able to channel pressure in tough spots because I've seen it major after major
Right,
after major with all these
right.
guys. Do I have that confidence in Team USA? Nope, I don't. I don't care who it is. Maybe Shane because he won a world championship and he was in another final this year, but we've seen him in the Mosconi Cup come up flat. So I don't know. You but all these guys because of their winning acumen, I, how can you not love them in tough spots? But I tell you what, like if they get in a little bit of a hole early, and then let's say Jason loses one or Josh loses one of your big boys, then you're really counting on the rest of these guys to deliver for you. Then it's like, okay, then I'm calling to buy out of my bets. That's what I'm doing. but
Yeah, the
but
US's attitude going into this, I think, is like there's nothing to lose here. Everybody in the world thinks Europe's going to win except Joey Ryan. So we're just going to go into it and just freewheel and play our best and with nothing to lose. And I think that does take a lot of the pressure off the United States, even though there's going to be 3,000, 2,800 fans there cheering for the United States. I think each of those fans know deep down they're the underdog, a sizable underdog here. And so if they just go out and try to stay relaxed and play the best pool they possibly can, things happen. This is 9-ball. This is races to 5, brother.
Yeah, well, theoretically, that's exactly right. But I mean, that's been the case theoretically for 12 years, where they should have gone into every Moscone thinking we're playing. There's no expectation on us. Let's just be loose and freewheel. It's a little different saying that to yourself and trying to talk yourself into it, and then walking out there and hearing everybody screaming, and you have to, you missed the leg by a diamond and a half.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about pressure is that, like you say, the USA are going into this event under no pressure at all, really. But what happens is last year they probably went into the event with no pressure either. But then halfway through the event, they're leading, and all of a sudden the pressure suddenly piles onto you.
Do you think? Yeah, I don't know if I felt last year was so much pressure on the U.S. after leading for 2 days as it was Europe kicking themselves in the ass and saying, all right, we took this way too easy, took these guys way too much for granted, especially with Jeremy having to jump in there. Now it's time to buckle down and get the job done. And all of a sudden they went on a 5-0 run on the third day.
all right, so if you're laying 5, if you'd have the choice to lay 5 or take 5, who are you taking, Joey?
I'm taking.
Oh, never mind. I don't even know
Taking
why
the
I'm
US plus
asking you.
5.
I don't even know why I'm asking you.
Let's
Luke,
get down. Let's go.
So I get 5, so I can, if I get to 7, I win.
No, what are they going to, Mike? They're going to 11.
Going
Ain't they?
11.
Well, yeah, but I guess as a win. So let's say 6 is a win.
6 is a win. I'm taking the U.S. all day long.
What say you, Luke?
So with a 5-match start, you say?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a tough one, that, because my prediction earlier was like 11-5, 11-6. So
Yeah.
if it was 11-5, Europe would win. If it was 11-6, I'm sitting on the fence on that one.
What if it was at 4 then, Mike? What would you do?
7.
Yeah.
I still think I'd throw some money at them.
Well, I don't even got to ask you, Red. Listen, I think about between 4 to 5 is going to be the line. They're going to be heavy underdogs. The Americans are, but they got. Listen, I've seen crazier things go and happen. I think pressure in early starts are going to be massive. I would like even though I bet on Team Europe, I want to see a competitive event. I don't want to see 11-7. I want to see 11-8-9 somewhere in there. I want to see what these guys are made of in really tough pressure-packed spots under a team dynamic. I know from a few of these guys what I can expect, but we haven't seen them in Vegas in quite some time, and we haven't seen them with the most fans that's ever going to be out there. I think it's going to be beyond exciting, and I'm pumped to be out there.
Melina, you keep saying see him. Going to see him next week. What if people want to see him? Well, there's a free way that you can see him. Actually,
good segue, Joey.
Yeah, you like it? Actually, if you sign up, if you go to billiardsdigest.com and you sign up for their subscription, you'll get a year's worth for $32. You'll get 12 issues mailed to your door. And with that, Mike Panozzo will send you an email, or one of his designees, that will give you a free 1 month of DAZN so that you can watch the event. So can't beat that. You get to watch the event for free, and you'll get the best billiards publication out there mailed to your door. So people have been asking, is there a code? Is there this? Is there that? No, you just have to do it before 10 p.m. on Sunday. And Panozzo will intercept your email address when you enroll, and he'll send you an email with the code for DAZN so you can get that free month. So definitely check it out. It's a great deal. And yeah, it's in the spirit.
You should give him a job, Mike. He did that brilliantly, didn't he?
He did. Know, right? Well, the lead into it was fantastic. What if you can't go to Las Vegas and see the event live? Like, we got a deal for you. No, it's fun to be able to come up and do something like this and just say, you hear so much every year you read about people like, I don't want to pay $20 for DAZN for a month to watch one event, and how do I get it? And I'm just going to make it as easy on you as I can, aside from just giving it away free, which I don't have the money to do, but which is basically get more eyes watching it. It helps. You'll enjoy it. It's the best event in pool. You'll be helping the sport. You'll be helping Matchroom. You'll be helping DAZN. Watch the event. It's worth it. It's a great event. It's going to be a ton of fun. But I'm looking forward to being out there for sure.
And Joey, you'll be surprised to know I actually bought my BD subscription
finally.
And finally, yeah. So, and I'll actually whatever that DAZN code is, I'll give it away somehow next week. So we'll figure that out. So
yeah, you can re-gift it.
It's not
or you can hold on to it for the U.S. Open, or another month where you can do it. Yeah, you don't have to use it in December.
I like that. Luke, where can guys watch your?
Someone just lost out on a gift.
Luke, where can guys watch the Italian Open at? How can they tune in?
Well, they can watch it at Kazum.com, which is a pay platform, but they also stream 2 or 3 matches a day on Facebook Live on the EPBF page. And you'll see me there emceeing the matches.
Listen, we appreciate you stopping by. We all know your history in the game, and hopefully we can follow up with you next week and see where we're at after a few days of the Mosconi Cup.
Okay, yeah, I'll need to get I need to sort out some sort of VPN to watch it in Rome, but I shall do.
I was gonna say, if not, I can give you my DAZN code from Mike.
It only works in the U.S.
Yeah, you got to wait for that Matchroom map to come out, and I'll show you where you can watch it.
Yeah, I'll wait for that. Yeah.
In that case, you're in a bad game, buddy. Guys, we'll see you later. We'll follow.
Thank you very much.